So Jawless releases his final form, his desperation attack. If you ever played any form of Japanese video games where there's a lot of bosses in it, most bosses, when they're in their last line of health, always have this thing called a desperation move. And one of my favorite examples is always in Kingdom Hearts. When you fight hard bosses in Kingdom Hearts, especially the data bosses, they've always have this long lines of health, bars upon bars of health. And when they get on their final bar of health, they do these desperation attacks where they're shooting all over the place or they're just using some cheap trick at the end or a move that can take you out within one hit. So you gotta make sure you see the move coming and you counter it with them. There's always those kind of things, even in Dark Souls or any other kind of blood from software game. There's always that desperation attempt of an attack to really take down the hero. And it's always nice to see because it can be tricky at times and a bit messy, but yet beautiful in its own way. This thing of Jawless is that his obsession of becoming a god. Like I thought he just wanted nobility to be part of the inner circle within Saltville, but then his ambitions throughout this match keep getting bigger and bigger as he continued to transform to his beast form to a monster. And he did this by doping his henchmen and then eating them alive and absorbing their powers. This was definitely desperation. And this guy definitely lost his own plot. And you can tell because will anyone really accept you? This dude truly was consumed by his own pride, the lion's pride. He was so consumed by it, he didn't realize. And a lot of people who are consumed by their pride always seems to happen to them. Where they have this ability where they can gather other powers, they do this desperate attempt where they devour and consume anything around them to gain power. But in return, they lose themselves and become an abomination. I've seen this in comics, video games, and cartoons, and even movies, where they become this monstrous abomination of a creature. And it's just like they no longer have a human will anymore. The only thing that's left is their pride and ambition of what they wanted to be. Just think about it. In the beginning, he wanted to be part of this inner circle. Then it was him, oh, I could rule over this kingdom, rule the world, I could become a god. All this stuff. Like, wow, you're getting bigger every minute. But he was defeated because when a boss evolves, sometimes you too can evolve. And thanks to the help of Nafumi doing another prophecy, of course he is, he was able to evolve Foal's power. Now, Foal pretty much we saw a full on Digimon Digi-evolution here. He was like a demi-human, He had the animal features, but more like human, then became a demi-beast, well, beast man, I would say, where he was a humanoid animal, and then he went full on beast mode, full beast. Like, is that really? And this does remind me of Digimon in a way. The Ty's rival. I think his name was Matt, and his Digimon went from a werewolf that could stand, and then went to a wolf that could be on all fours, but it had missile launchers and stuff on it. I believe it had. That's what it reminded me of in a way. Just Digi evolving the entire time. And when I was watching that, Digimon was playing in my head. So they defeated Jawless, but they don't know who gave him the idea to do what he did in a way. And seeing Jawless take like that, it's to be expected. Because you think, but I thought he was a smart character, a character that'll think things through, not be rash to make such very irresponsible decisions. But when someone's consumed and blinded by their own ambition and pride, they lose sight of everything around them. And that's exactly what happened to them. And then she claps him in. So, question is who persuaded him to be like this, to do what he did? He gave him the idea for a doping drug. Nobody knows. We'll have to find out later on down the road. And knowing them, it'll probably be at the out of nowhere. Like, oh, it's you. Some people think it's mine. I don't think it's mine. It, I don't think it's mine. It has to be somebody else. But who it is, I don't know. But it has to be somebody else. So after that, the honor was finally restored. Full felt like he was able to have a weight lifted off his shoulders after a long time of guilt and this feeling of failure that he had over him. You know, failure to protect his mom, failure to meet his dad's expectations, and then the failure of the reputation of his family, and then barely taking care of his sister and everything. And now he's getting everything back. You know, he got his land back. He could even move his parents' grave to a better place, but he wanted to keep it there because memory's sake. And now they even got their big Chinese house, and I'm starting to see the difference. You know, we're starting to see the other worldly cultures within the world of Shield Hero, where it seems like their culture is more Chinese, where Raptilia's culture is more of a, I guess, Japanese in a way. So it's very interesting of what's going on here. We have some similarities of our world within their culture, which happens. And it depends on the geography of where each person lives, decide how their culture is determined. Of course, religion and on other kind of things are put into it. But yeah, and then let's talk about Allah, man. Freaking Allah. I've been jealous this entire time. Like, think about it. The entire time, Allah had the spotlight. She had a spotlight from her starting to learn martial arts to being very strong to even doing that amazing speech in that one episode and everything, and even single-handedly beating her opponent in the arena with ease. She had it going on. You know, this entire time she always had this one up on her big brother. You know, it's like, yeah, I'm totally. She had this big ego confidence and everything. She still loved her big brother, but boy, did she have an ego on her, man. She thought she was all that. And then Full has this new transformation that exceeds hers beyond limits. And now she is jealous. It's like, yo, square one. I like how Nafumi, you narrated. Allah was extremely jealous of this. And of course she is, you know. I guess it's because of what happened to her. And this is the first time we see a character like Allah really spring into this very um, assertive kind of character. I've seen this before, you know, in one anime called Kimino Jihen, where the Spire Girl, who was shut in all the time because of her guardian, and then she was freed, and then she became this total um, into the times kind of girl who would wear very questionable clothing and always spoke her mind. These kind of characters usually happen because they seem to find themselves quickly when they're free. But anyways, it's also cute trying to get Nafumi's attention by showing off all the dresses, and Nafumi would never recognize it because Nafumi, my man, has a lot on his plate. You see, I usually people say, "Oh, is Nafumi one of the characters that just ignore a girl's feelings?" That's not the case. Nafumi cares for his team. It's just that he has a lot on his plate. You know, from he first got in his world for being betrayed and trying to build some sort of reputation just to survive and everything, starting off from square zero and just building and struggling, especially with the princess on his tail all the time. And then he had to deal with every situation. He had to be the responsible hero. He had to clean up everyone's mess. He keeps going to a different world and having to deal with their mess as well, coming back, going back to his mess, and then the thing of going on to Reptilia. It's just so much is happening towards him. Not to mention, he is a merchant at heart. So his mind is on making business. His mind is on helping out their village. His mind is also making new recipes. That's where his mind is at. And there's nothing wrong with that at the end of the day because that's what he is. The dude has a lot on his plate and what he needs to do. So I respect that. So finally, we can say goodbye to Siltveld, this crazy arc that we had in this season of Siltveld, of them being staying there, optionally, to going through some madness with this lion, deciding who you can trust and who you can go with, to having the honor restored, and now they must return back to their village to see who will join them on their big, big mission to Cutenlo. Now, the thing about this is, um, someone asked me, like, wasn't Philo and Malty supposed to go out and train and get stronger and stuff to boost up their levels? Which they did, but they had to stop intermission because of what happened over Talia. That's what they need to understand. They had to put everything on hold because this is an emergency, especially with the Phoenix showing up around the corner. Now, finally, after they drop by, go to their village, they'll be on their way to Cutenlo. The question is who's going to Cutenlo and what surprises will be waiting for them up ahead. And that's it for this episode. It's a great episode. The animation in some areas felt a bit off. I feel like whether this studio got a lower budget or the team is just running on dry. Either way, I can feel the animation, and I did see some reviews saying in the last episode that the animation quality was kind of down compared to what you expect from Shield Hero animation. But a lot of people said that the animation has been down since season 2. But then again, you had some good scenes in season 3, so who knows? Maybe they decided to put their efforts in certain areas, and that's it. But that's what I think, anyways. What's going on? They decided to put it in areas they think is needed for good animation. But with that being said, as long as it's not terrible, okay? I've seen worse, and I've actually liked worse. Try watching Lucifer and the Biscuit Hammer, okay? Then we'll talk. And I still like that. But anyways, I'm rambling on too much. I'll end it here. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. If you did, like, comment, subscribe, of course. Hit that bell icon. This has been Madcrown on Anime. Signing out.